He's wasting his time trying to negotiate with Little Rocket Man. Save your energy, Rex. We'll do what has to be done. This tweet comes a day after Tillerson acknowledged back-channel talks with North Korean officials. Joining me now, Bruce Klingner, a top North Korea expert at the Heritage Foundation and a former CIA analyst. And Bruce was among several Republican analysts that North Korea contacted, all in an attempt to better understand the president and his messages. Bruce declined their invitation. So with a welcome to you, Bruce, it's an important conversation here. I want to start with the president's tweet. Are you alarmed by it at all? Because there's a subliminal tone there, you know, implying more sanctions or military action. Does it undermine back-channel negotiations?
I think it's part of a trend of some conflicting signals coming from the Trump administration. Earlier this year, the president, as well as the Secretary of State and H.R. McMaster, National Security Advisor, seemed to be suggesting the U.S. was considering a preventative attack, one in which we might do a military strike, even if we didn't feel we were in imminent danger of a North Korean attack. Lately, that message seems to have been downplayed in favor of pressure. But now we had recently the Secretary of State saying they were reaching out. They had 3 different channels of communication with North Korea. And now the president seems to be undercutting that.
So what the president's doing, do you think North Korea reads this as more saber-rattling, or do you think they take it as an actual threat?
Well, some would say it's good cop, bad cop. It's a way of trying to pressure North Korea by perhaps suggesting a military strike. But it also leaves certainly our allies confused, and one would think that North Korea would be confused whether negotiations or discussions would be worthwhile. That would not seem to be the case given the president's tweets right now.
So I want to turn to North Korea's outreach to Republican officials. And I know that you, as we've said, declined an invitation to meet with officials in Pyongyang. But the Washington Post says that talks with other Republicans are underway. They started before this back-and-forth name-calling began. So first of all, how close are these officials to Kim Jong-un?
Well, any North Korean official is obviously subordinate to the senior leadership, and one of the questions that any U.S. academic or former official has in talking with a North Korean counterpart is how representative are they of what Kim Jong-un is really thinking, and how much flexibility they may have in sort of probing U.S. for indications of a willingness to negotiate. And also there's discussion amongst Korea watchers in the U.S. as to whether a North Korean official shows signs of flexibility or whether that's just misperceived signals.
So I understand you declined the invitation to go to Pyongyang, but it is also my understanding that you did meet with North Korean officials. Was it in June in Sweden?
Right.
What was the difference?
Right. Well, there have been meetings between North Korean officials and former U.S. officials. It's called a Track 1.5 meetings. There have been those kind of meetings for years. So even some that now are being seen as being reached out to have engaged in meetings in the past. So I did meet with some officials in Sweden in June and wrote an op-ed about it. And the main message there was that there was no signals of flexibility, that the officials had said that denuclearization is totally off the table. There's nothing Washington or Seoul could offer that would induce them to abandon their nuclear arsenal.
So then, Bruce, how much should officials who are doing the negotiating and following all this, how much should they take that as fact? It's truth, and trying to get them to back off is pointless.
Well, we've tried negotiations. We've tried, I would argue, sort of timid incrementalism on applying sanctions. There are many things more we can do. And we've recently seen this administration imposing more sanctions on North Korean entities, new executive orders. But we've still really been pulling our punches against Chinese entities. There had seemed to be a bow wave of kind of momentum for imposing either significant fines on Chinese bank or sanctioning Chinese violators of U.S. law. We don't know if that will be held in abeyance now that China has vowed that its banks and businesses will stop doing business with North Korea.
You've also said that North Korea seems to be much more emboldened. They have a lot more confidence. They're more self-insured than they've previously been. Is that because they have the military might to back up themselves?
Right. It's a consistent theme that U.S. experts have noticed in meetings and perhaps the last year is a greater self-confidence, even a cockiness, given all the successful tests that they've had with a wide range of missiles, as well as their nuclear tests. So they had 2 tests last year, then they had the hydrogen bomb or thermonuclear bomb test this year. So if they're either across the finish line or very close to the finish line of a nuclear ICBM, then they likely feel emboldened that they would not be abandoning this arsenal, at least without significant pressure trying to change their calculus.
Okay, Bruce Klingner, I'll look forward to speaking with you again about this and more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Puerto Rico and the ongoing recovery efforts there. The island's governor says distribution of gas and water